is AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling. I am Will Washington, along with my co-host, the one and only referee, Aubrey Edwards.
Hello.
And don't forget that this podcast here is presented by Upper Deck, and the AEW SP Signature Edition is here, featuring Mercedes Moné, Orange Cassidy, Kenny Omega, and more, packed with rare hits, stunning parallels, and collector heat. This set delivers the energy of the ring straight to your hands. Available now at your local hobby store. Don't miss the pull of the year. I love this set. I know you've got your cards on you right now.
I do. I love these. They're so thick. Like, that's one card, dude.
Yes.
Oh my God. This one is actually a piece of the wrestling mat. It's like, which is funny because it's Matt Jackson. So
yeah, I was about to say that. It's Matt Jackson on it.
It's always great because it's like, oh, did someone bleed on this one that day? Which, fun story I have to tell you, because we just got back from Australia, right?
Yes.
So Australia is a very long flight. It was from LAX to Sydney, 15 hours. And as many people know, last week we were in Ontario, California. So that's about an hour east of LA. So as soon as the main event was done, hopped on a bus, drove to LAX, checked bags,
that was the
got on
fastest
a
we've
plane.
ever been out of the arena I can recall in a very long time.
I think it's because we had so many people on these flights, and it's like, those are very expensive and we can't rebook them, guys. Like, we got to go. We got to go. But as you'll recall, I did the main event in Ontario, and we had this amazing main event. It was a strap match, Chris Statlander versus Tekla. Tekla's now our new AEW Women's World Champion. But at one point in the match, Tekla literally wipes her hands on me, and I've just like got blood all over me. So I don't want to hold up the bus. And Bryce is like, hey, if you could grab your bags and just book it over to the bus. I literally put a hoodie on and just go, well, I hope TSA doesn't ask me to take my jacket off, because I'm literally covered in someone's blood walking through the airport. Thankfully, I got to shower in one of the lounges before I got on the plane. But yeah, that was smelling like pennies going through TSA. No big deal.
Pro wrestling is so amazing because it is one of those things where it's very hard to describe exactly what you do when you have sort of the consequences of what you do on you. And it's like walking through TSA like with a bloody shirt, like, oh yeah, I just murdered somebody. I don't know.
It's like, what happened? Oh, this isn't my blood. Don't worry about it. And it's like, that causes so many more questions. Even worse. It's even worse. There's so many things that happen on a wrestling show that we have like no idea are actually happening, because there's so many people working on the show and all of the different facets of it. So just on screen is just a small component, which I think leads to our guest today. So who's our guest today, Will?
Well, Aubrey, and I almost just used your real name there, but we are actually joined by one of the key players behind the scenes in AEW, but he's actually been a face that I think people have been familiar with in professional wrestling for a very, very long time, a voice that people have been familiar with as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by the one and only Josh Mathews.
Guys, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I've been watching and listening for a long time, so being here and being a part of it is it's a dream come true. It's fantastic.
Ooh.
I have to say, one of the things I'm struggling to get used to, because you've been in AEW now for the last year, but I have been hearing your voice in professional wrestling for the last 25 plus years, right? And so it's like... And so I think what's interesting is that when I hear you on the headset and things to that effect, it's like I'm hearing Josh Mathews commentary. And it's the thing that I like actually struggle to get used to. But it's been such a pleasure having you in AEW. And I guess that's the piece I want to start with is how did AEW come into the picture for you?
I mean, honestly, since the inception of the company, I have been trying to work for AEW. I used to bug a certain EVP all the time about getting a job there and coming over. And when things were first kind of starting, I mean, if we're just letting the cat out of the bag completely, I was with another company, obviously, and then Sanjay Dutt went over. And so I was bothering him about it all the time. Like, what is it going to be? Like, what is it about? Like, what have you heard? What's going on? And then it's funny how if something happens to one person, then it obviously kind of affects everybody else. So Keith Mitchell was our executive producer. And then when AEW started, Keith obviously left and went over to AEW. So at where I was, we no longer had a show producer. So I said, let me try it. Let me do this. We'll find a commentator and I'll go in the truck, because the producers that we're bringing in right now after Keith left just aren't working for me as a commentator. They don't understand what it is that we do completely, and it's causing my job to be harder. And I think that I can, and what a I think I can go in the truck and do this. Like, what a moronic thing to say at the time. That I can go inside a television production truck that I've never been in, other than once or twice in WWE when Kevin Dunn would call me in there to yell at me. But I wanted to do it. I wanted to try it, and it worked out. We brought in Tom Hannafin, and he became really good. Obviously, he was really good, but working with him as the lead play-by-play guy, and then I got to learn how to produce a wrestling show, and I sort of learned it through osmosis for so long in WWE with Kevin Dunn and Vince McMahon, and then Mike Mansury and Mark Palmerico. Like, I just learned so much from those guys. And then the launch of the WWE Network, I got to, sort of pseudo produce the pre and post shows for Raw and SmackDown, and just fell in love with that side of the business, and said, let me please try to do this. And it lasted for 5, 6, 7 years over there. And with the change of management and ownership, things didn't work out. And I called Mike Mansury and called Sanjay again. And a year later, here we are. And I'm on this podcast with you guys. And it's been great.
I remember the day that I walked into the venue and I saw you sitting there on some of the road cases, like after you had left TNA. And I was like, oh, yeah, this was inevitable. What took you so long?
It wasn't for a lack of trying. I promise you that. Being here for the last year, and I've told this to Tony Khan, I have fallen in love with wrestling again. AEW has done that for me, and I loved wrestling as a kid. It was my favorite thing. It's all I ever wanted to do. I think my story has been told pretty well over the years, but being here and seeing the passion, the dedication, the teamwork, obviously you and I were talking before we started this about how in Australia, and you guys were over there, and it all just comes together magically, and it isn't for a lack of an incredible team built by some amazing people.
Hell yeah.
So what has it been like, working on I would say, let's talk about what a typical day looks like. You mentioned Mike Mansury, who I think not a lot of AEW fans are familiar with, but I think everybody in AEW is familiar with. And of course, if you listen to this podcast, we've talked with Mike before on this show. But kind of talk about what a day with working with Mike looks like.
Yeah, we get there, early in the afternoon for a show that's live at 8 Eastern, and rehearsals start at 4 or 5 o'clock, and kind of go through entrances and things like that. Start to piece together what we know. Hey, we know that MJF and Hangman are going to be involved in a confrontation of a verbal altercation of some sorts tonight, so we can go through those entrances and sort of talk to the guys. And then you get, your director, Andrew Thomas, involved, and the Joels and the Daryls, and obviously Topher and Mikey Dispenza, and everybody right across the board that's doing, their particular job. The guys in audio too, right? And graphics, and I don't want to miss anybody. But you get everyone on the sort of the same sheet of music. And as I've talked to Mike about it before, it's like being a train conductor or an orchestra conductor, because you've got so many different pieces that all have to sort of come together at the same time. And to watch Mike do it so seamlessly is amazing. And learning from him, I got to sit in the back bench for 6 months and just watch Mike, and he amazes me every week, truthfully. And I tell him this all the time, so this isn't like new information, but it's great. And then we get to do the show, and the show ends, and everybody feels great, and we move on and we do it again the following week. So it's so much fun from the time the show starts, obviously when you get there, but then the show starts and the adrenaline kicks in and TK's there. And, it's just, it's always a exciting and thrilling and the live TV, there's nothing like live TV. It's absolutely incredible.
So I'm kind of curious. So it's funny. We had mentioned before we started that I oftentimes don't see you at work, but I hear you all the time because you're in my headset. And you had mentioned that you were sort of sitting like sort of back and watching Mike do it for 6 months or so. And then slowly you started to become sort of the guy on the headset, sort of managing everything. So I'm kind of curious, like, how did that happen? And what's sort of the communication flow between you and Mike every day?
Yeah, I think that was always the plan, right? That I would sit and learn and kind of the AEW way and the way that Mike and Tony have sort of built this. Obviously, everybody's different. Every company's different and structured differently. So this was the plan to be, I think my official title is line producer. So, you're managing the line. You're watching everything that's happening on the show and you're working right there next to the director. And when Mike and I first talked, that was sort of the idea that I would come in and line produce the show. And, it's been a year now. I can't believe it's already been a year. And it's just been, like we talked about, right? It never stops. It never slows down. The train keeps moving. And, it's just been, it's been one of the best, most rewarding years of my professional career. If this all ended tomorrow for me, I would still sit here and wave the AEW flag because I just think this company is amazing, and just the just how much everybody takes pride in what they do is awesome.
Well, one story I think about often, honestly, and you probably don't even realize I think about this that often, but I remember back at All In Texas. I walked over to you. It was one of the first conversations we had ever had because I was off the road most of 2025, and now I'm like on the road all the time. So
by that side of the ring, we were chatting.
Yeah. But I came over to you because you were just staring at the stage, and I found it fascinating. And I was like, and I came over, I started a conversation with you, and you had talked about how you were kind of staring around, and you had mentioned how you had thought that the last WrestleMania you were a part of was the last time you were going to be a part of like a big show like that. And then fast forward here, we were at All In Texas and just seeing the production of it, the stage of it. You had mentioned getting that feeling again. And that was, one of the probably, I would say, would you call that probably one of your biggest nights in AEW?
It was huge. And to even be on, the pre-show to be a part of that was awesome, for the segment that I was there and to be able to be on air with Renee and those guys was great. And yes, the answer, I didn't know if I would ever be in an arena like that, a stadium like that, again, and to be back in that sort of, to be back in the, I kind of put it like being in the major leagues again. And this is not a shot at anybody where I worked for the last 10 years. And if anybody notices, I'm not saying their name on purpose. But again, the people that worked there that I worked with for so long were amazing. And this isn't an insult towards any of them. But to be back in the major leagues is awesome. And we watch TBS a lot. I'm a huge Big Bang Theory fan. And to see the ins and outs and the promotional materials for AEW and the shows, and it's just to say, hey, that's where we work, to be able to tell our kid like, hey, that's where we work. It's cool. It's great. It's that's something that I don't think I'll ever get used to.
Hell yeah. Oh my God. I'm so happy we finally have you on. This is such a great conversation here on AEW Unrestricted. Will and Aubrey, we're going to come back right after this break with Josh Mathews. Stay tuned. AEW Unrestricted. We've got Aubrey, we've got Will, we've got Josh Mathews, line producer here at AEW. He is extremely critical to the product, even though you don't see him on screen outside of like once in Texas, which was funny because I was watching like social media at the time and just seeing like what people were talking about. And someone's like, why do they have Josh Mathews on the pre-show? It's like, well, because he's here. Like, and in my mind, I'm like, yeah, this is just something that people don't realize, that you're such a critical part of our show, literally every single week. And it's funny to kind of see you be that on-screen person when that is such a huge part of your history. And I had even forgotten, I know Will had mentioned it. I didn't watch wrestling growing up. So a lot of my introduction to wrestling is like through clips, watching back. And I'm listening to this one clip on, I think it was SmackDown. And I'm like, wait, is that Josh Mathews? Like, I'm listening to commentary. I'm like, oh my God, that's right. And I'm like, oh, right. He did all this other stuff for such a long time. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit, like, let's go way back. Kind of your introduction into wrestling, because I think the first time people saw you on screen was like Tough Enough back in 2001.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my brother, who was 3 years older than me, who was like the typical like all-American, 6'4", 200, like everything came easy to my brother. He was a Division I college football player. He loved wrestling, loved it, and he introduced me to wrestling when we were kids. And then he went off to play football and would send me, because he was East Coast and I was kind of still in the Midwest. And I was kind of stopped watching wrestling at this point. I was a teenager and all that. And he was like, you got to start watching this thing called, I don't know, it's like ECW or something. I was like, all right, send me some tapes. So he started sending me the weekly tapes, and then the Barely Legal pay-per-view came on, and I watched it and sort of re-fell in love with it again, right, as a teenager. And then the Hardys and this cool new thing that I had never seen before, this ECW and Rob Van Dam and Taz and Sabu, and I was just like enthralled by this. And then Tough Enough came up, and I was a freshman or sophomore in college. I was doing my homework. I'll never forget, I was sitting in my parents' basement doing my homework, and Jim Ross's voice came on the screen, hey, are you Tough Enough? And I sort of looked up and wrote everything down, stopped doing my homework, made my audition tape, and literally it was like Tuesday I sent it in. MTV called me on Thursday, and they were like, hey, we got your tape. Auditions are going to be in New York at WWF New York at the time. In a few weeks, we think you may be one of the people that we're going to bring out to audition. And I'd never been on an airplane before in my life at this point.
Wow.
So then the next Monday comes around, and they show all the clips of people who had sent their tapes in. And my clip was one of them. And I was like, if that's as far as I ever make it, I've been on Monday Night Raw, that's totally cool with me. And then a few weeks later, I was in New York, and I auditioned. I made it. The show started like 5 days later. We had to come home and literally pack up. I had to withdraw from college, which I still probably owe my parents thousands of dollars for withdrawing from school. And then it was sort of like that was the beginning of it. We did the show. I lost in the live finale. While filming the show, 9/11 happened. We were actually in WWE New York the Monday night before 9/11, live on Raw. The finale was supposed to be that Thursday. We woke up Tuesday morning and the towers had gotten hit. So now they pushed the finale out like 4 weeks. They're like, we don't know what to do. We're going to keep you guys in Connecticut. You guys will just train every day, and then we'll do this live finale at some point. I lost. MTV offered me a job as a VJ. WWE said, keep working on the indies. And then a year later, they did a reunion of Tough Enough 1 and Tough Enough 2. I was there as a 21-year-old kid with my per diem from them. I was running around Times Square just having a blast. And the next day they were like, hey, we kind of saw you last night having fun. We think you could be, something in WWE. Not a wrestler. You're 5'9", but something. And this was Kevin Dunn. And I said, okay, great. So a week later, I flew back out, auditioned as an announcer, and spent the next 14 years watching Michael Cole, watching Taz, watching Jim Ross, driving those gentlemen, getting coffee for those guys, and learning. And I spent 14 years there. I got to call WrestleMania, and it was great. And it was an awesome part of my life. It led me to where I am now, and the people that I get to work with every week. And it's just, follow your dreams, because, you never know what's going to happen. We tell our kid that all the time. And, it certainly has worked out so far.
I always find it interesting. And I think it was really my first year in AEW. One of my favorite things to observe and analyze is how much of a reunion of professional wrestling AEW tends to be. That I remember the first day Jimmy Jacobs was working with us, and he comes in and he runs into Bryan Danielson, but then he turns around and then he sees Jeff Jones, but then he turns around and it's like he's seeing guys from all these various places of professional wrestling, because that's ultimately what AEW is it's such a cornucopia of knowledge from all aspects of professional wrestling, whether you worked in ECW, whether you worked in TNA, whether you worked in WWE, whatever it is, WCW, we have experience from all across the board. And just listening to a lot of the names you had talked about getting to learn from, these are names that you get to work with today, right? Like you sat alongside Taz, and then all of a sudden now you're working with him today at AEW. How have you felt that experience now with all of this experience under your belt? You talk about Tough Enough. That was 25 years ago. And now here you are today, a 25-year professional wrestling veteran. You've been around the business that long, but you're working with guys that you've known, that amount of time. How do you feel like you've walked into AEW with that, I guess, sense of maturity under your belt?
I think that's a great way to put it. It is the sense of maturity, right? I've done some dumb things over the years. I think we all probably have.
Who hasn't?
And tried to learn from those. And I watched Don Callis actually when he came into where we were with him and Scott D'Amore. And Don was so good at watching and sort of observing and probably spent months without even saying much of anything. And I thought that was really cool to see, because other people would come in, right? Marketing reps or people like that level outside of wrestling. And why don't you guys do this? We've tried that. It doesn't work. Well, why don't you try this? Yeah, we've done that. It doesn't work. Well, why don't you right? Like they come in with these ideas that they think are so amazing and new, and they're not. It's sort of been there, done that. This is why it does work, or this is why it doesn't work. So I think it's coming in with the mindset of, like you're saying, Will, these are people that have been around for years. We've all been around for years at this point, and they and this brand, this product has been around for almost a decade now, right? So it's it's working. So I wanted to come in and I wanted to watch and see and how does Mike produce this show, and how does it get directed, and what are your going to commercial, what does that look like for you guys, just using something in the body of the show. So I think it was coming in with a open mind, and I think that's what a lot of people, if I had any advice, it would be, if you're going to start somewhere, even after having 20 plus years of experience, is coming in with an open mind and realizing that it may work somewhere else, and you may not even know that you were doing something right, wrong, indifferent, just watching to see, and having the opportunity to sort of sit back and watch how it went for as long as I did, I think was just crucially beneficial to me.
So you obviously have a number of years under your belt at multiple different companies, and talking about that kind of coming in and observing and all that sort of stuff. What sort of makes AEW unique? Either it's from a storytelling perspective, a presentation perspective, what's the biggest thing you've seen that kind of stands out with how AEW is different?
I think it's the passion. I think it's the passion of the performers. I think it's the passion of the fans. I think it's the passion of Tony Khan. I mean, it's infectious. You guys know that better than anybody, right? He just has this energy about him that when we all do get together, before the show, and you're kind of going over everything, it's just that's infectious to me. And he cares so much about AEW and how people feel about AEW, and wants it to be something that, as a fan, that you can be proud to be a fan of. And I think that, it's not a product that's dumbed down. The pay-per-views, when I was at my first pay-per-view, and I know that people talk about, the length of these shows. To me, it went by quick. It was
blows by.
It does. And it's so exciting. And the wrestlers, they just, man, they work their asses off, right? And it's just how you can't be it's so infectious, and how you just want to be as good as everything that you're seeing be done, right? You don't want to be the one that brings it down or whatever. You want to help elevate, and just watching it all come together, getting to work. Sometimes you don't need caffeine because the energy of everybody there just kind of sets it up for you. So I love going to work every week, and it's a lot of fun.
In talking about getting to work with some of the talent, have you had any of those moments where you almost, I guess more so you have mentioned that you had those moments, but can you think of a specific moment where working on the show, you remembered why you loved this?
Um, we were in Vegas not too long ago, and
Mhm.
we were kind of going over just an entrance, right, and talking it through with MJF and Justin Roberts, the ring announcer, and just to hear different opinions on just the cadence of words or the order of words. And honestly, it was just a great conversation. And I've been meaning to text Justin, like, I love your passion, like just for word order. Like it was a 10-minute conversation, but it was that insignificant, and not even insignificant, but that conversation about what we were doing, and Justin's level for how much he cares about what he does, and then MJF's level for his presentation and all that. And I just sort of sat back and watched and listened and observed. And those conversations I find to be so much fun when you can have them and you have the time to have them, because it's like everybody cares so much about the presentation and the way it comes off, and even the word order. I just those conversations to me are so much fun when you get to kind of sit back and it's not contentious or anything. It's just, hey, what if this, or what if this, or what if this. And here I feel like everyone's opinion has weight and everyone's opinion is valid. And if anybody would have came over in that conversation, I think that they would have been welcomed and joined in. And WWE, for as much as that place taught me, that's not the case over there. I remember one time, it was like a taped SmackDown, and Vince McMahon and Triple H were having a conversation over here about, they didn't want to, I can't remember exactly, they didn't want to do a title change on the show, and they were trying to figure out how to do it. And I looked over and gave an opinion, and they just looked at me like, who are you talking to? Completely
Mhm.
ignored me and went back to their conversation. And it was just like, okay, I tried. It, Not even like, here's why that won't work, Josh. It was just like totally, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but I just felt like, hey, your guys are right there. I feel like in AEW, that maybe doesn't happen. I feel like everyone's opinion kind of gets, hey, that's a great idea, whoever it came from.
It totally doesn't. Like, Will has pitched things to me, and I'm like, "Oh, what if you did this? Or what if we did it this way? Or how about this?" And then he'll go back and talk to other people, and then all those ideas get incorporated. And it's
Yeah.
like, you don't even have to all be in the same space. It's just people are thinking about something and talking about it and coming up with ideas. And maybe not all the ideas are there instantly, but the fact that we're all trying to make this product better each and every single week, it's just one of those things that it keeps you invested, because you know that your opinion matters and what you're doing is impacting the show and making the show better. And we're all sort of pushing each other. And it's like, family is an overused word, but in this instance, it's like, well, yeah, that's exactly what this is.
It's wild that you say family, because I've always shied away from that word in wrestling. Like, I've never thought, like, we're not a family. Like, if this ends for me tomorrow, nobody here is paying my mortgage. But I do feel what you're saying. And I do feel like AEW is that. And I've sort of softened on that stance of like, I don't know. Like, there was I don't know, like a GoFundMe for one of our behind the scenes guys. And like the
Mhm.
amount that went to that for something that happened to him was awesome. And to be able to contribute to that was great. So it's just that part of it is no longer lost on me. Like, people here do care about each other. A year in, I haven't seen a lot of the backstabbing or this he said, she said. Like, it's all kind of been great.
It's awesome. Oh, just like this conversation, we've got to take a quick break, but there's more with Josh Mathews here on AEW Unrestricted.
AEW Unrestricted. It's Will Washington. It's Aubrey Edwards. And of course, our guest, the one and only Josh Mathews. He works behind the scenes here on AEW as a line producer. But I would say, especially if you've been a wrestling fan as long as I have been, Josh Mathews is a face and a voice that you've been familiar with for a very, very long time. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here because, there have been eras of on-screen wrestling personalities, right? You've got the eras of your Gene Okerlunds, and we've got the current era with Renee Paquette. But there's a specific era with guys like Todd Grisham and you, and where you were really a big part of the show. You got to get possessed by the Undertaker. Like that's like one of those things that stands out in my mind historically. When you think back on that portion of your career, what do you look back on that fondly? How is that portion of your career? How does that kind of resonate with you when you think about it today?
It's fun now to see some of these things because of social media. Like there's always that on this day 25 years ago, and I think I'm in that part now where it's like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. I remember. The Undertaker Possession Day was awesome because I had the first generation iPod, and they he did the VO, right, like the microphone that you have there, and they put it on an iPod, and all day long I walked around with wired headphones, just repeating what he said over and over and over again until I had it down. I mean, looking back at that stuff now, it's a lot of fun as a parent to be able to show my 12-year-old, hey, look at this from 100 years ago, and of course her comments are, why does your hair look like that? But to be able to show these things and to have this stuff live forever, and just to be a part of the launch of the WWE Network was so much fun, and just kind of looking back, and I do it more now as I'm getting a little older, about some of the things I've gotten to do and the experiences that I've gotten to be a part of because of wrestling. Like I look at the life that we have, and it's all because of wrestling. Every dollar that I've ever made since I'm 17 years old is from wrestling. Same with my wife. It's all she's ever done too. So it's just, to have that, to be able to talk about that, and to be able to, kind of look back and say, we've sort of built this off of wrestling is pretty unique, I think.
So on that topic, because we recently had Madison Rayne on the podcast, what's it like working with your wife at TV?
Wonderful. That's
the right answer.
She's been here for 3 years now, like 3.5, I think, right? When she first started in AEW, like I was so happy for her, and I'm still so happy for her, because talk about someone who loves going to work. She loves coming to work, and she loves what she does. And I think, from her in-ring career to sort of the post in-ring career, where we were, she wasn't always treated the best by management, and sort of overlooked and undervalued. And I think in this company, she's not, and she's able to thrive. And I mean, I've never met a more ambitious human being in my life. She's still in school. She's still, she talks about becoming a lawyer, and, going to law school, and all the things that she still has passion for, and is in school, right? I think semester started the other day for what she's doing now. So I look at her and just, she's awesome. And we're together a lot. We travel together. We're home together. That, if we're being honest, that can take a toll on people. But somehow we've made it work. And, we both know each other's, Thursday morning on the drive home from the airport, it's a quiet ride home because everyone's tired. Wednesdays, as you guys know, are long, long days with a lot of information, and your brain's going a million miles a minute. And then we land on Thursday and come home to dogs and the kid, and it works. And I think through communication and love, it's just it's something that we have made work.
Yeah, I love that. And honestly, like I love getting to see you guys as like interactions every once in a while throughout the day, because ultimately you guys are doing two entirely different jobs, to where as much as you're getting to work with your spouse on one end, she is on the coaching side, which does work hand in hand with communicating with your side, but ultimately you guys get to spend your day kind of doing entirely different things, and then working together when it comes time to even be on the headset. Have you ever had those headset moments where it's almost like, it's almost those moments, as a married person, that sometimes your spouse can maybe say something that it's like, that was loaded.
No, not yet. We've had.
I feel like this is a trap.
We've had. I mean, on headset, obviously, you guys know there's 30 people listening to your conversation with the coach, with the match coach, and no, she's. I've told her this since we were in the last place that we worked, and this is not because she's my wife. I think that she is a great coach. I think that she communicates really well with us in the truck, and the idea is to stay a little bit ahead, right? And she's always there, and I hear her talking to Obs, and I think she's a tremendous coach. I thought she was a tremendous coach where we were before. She's great at it. So honestly, there's been no, sometimes she'll say, "How much time do we have till we're back from break?" And hold on one second. But it's just, it's a familiarity, and it's a nice, I can see her. I look up and see her in my camera there, and it's almost comforting that when she sits down for a match.
Oh, hell yeah! All right. We're nearing the end, so I got to know a couple small little things. What has been your most memorable moment so far? Whether something you watched on screen as you were in the truck or something that you were yourself involved in.
Honestly, there's so much. In an AEW show, and that's what I love about it. Maybe that's the most memorable moment, is that there's so much. Before we started this, I was watching Grand Slam Australia, and I was like, man, this looks so cool. Like, it just looks awesome. And it's just the pay-per-views. I just think that the dedication to wrestling, for me, is kind of like my, that's the, crazy to say, that's the bread and butter of a wrestling company is the wrestling. This company, I think, just shines a light on the spectacular athletes that step foot inside that ring every week.
Hell yeah.
I have a question. This is something I've thought about probably far longer than I should have ever admitted that I've thought about this, Josh.
We're being open. It's okay.
But so you and I have had the personal conversation about names and how ultimately I think most people know, in the same way that Aubrey is not her real name. Josh Mathews, not your real name. Where did you land on Mathews only having one T?
Honestly, I don't know, and I've regretted it for 20 something years because everybody wants to put two T's in it. And the name came, I was sitting with Marty DeRosa. If you guys are familiar with Marty, he's a comedian.
Oh yeah.
Very funny guy. And I've known him since I was in the second grade. But we were sitting coming up with names, and we were watching Boy Meets World. And he was like, "What about Mathews?" And I was like, "Well, Joey Mathews." And he's like, "Who cares?" And I was like, "Okay, great. Let's do it with one T though." And he was like, "If that's what you want to do, okay, cool." And that's how it came. And when I went to WWE, they said, "Hey, we want to use Mathews. You've been using it for just a little bit." And I said, "That's totally fine." And that was literally the entire conversation.
Wow. Huh.
There is actually a story there. No, that's great. Because I actually have, because it's one of those things where you go to Google Josh Mathews, but you instinctively want to type two T's. And then it's either I don't get you or it corrects me and saying, "Do you mean Josh Mathews, one T?"
When I lived in New York, I auditioned for different stuff, movies and things like that. And I always felt like, well, maybe I didn't get it because they sent the email to, 2T Mathews and he got the gig.
Then it wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't meant to be. All right. It's weird to say that you've been here a year when it feels like you've been here a lifetime. What does sort of the next year look like for you? Do you have any big goals you want to hit, or do you just want to? It's hard to have goals in wrestling when so much of it is out of your control. But I'm kind of curious: is there anything that you've sort of got your heart set on that you want to do here?
I mean, I've gotten to check off so many boxes. It sounds maybe silly to say for folks watching, but like doing a Dynamite with Mike not there, doing a Collision with Mike not there, doing a pay-per-view. I've gotten to do all those, and the nerves are crazy, but the end result is phenomenal. And our daughter is a competitive gymnast, and she has these meets. Every week now we're in meet season, and I tell her all the time, like, man, I get what you're feeling as we're driving there, but when it's over, and however you finished, first, fifth, last, whatever, you feel great. You feel that sense of like relief and that sense of accomplishment and that sense of camaraderie with the team, and you did it. So for me, it's making those folks who believed in me proud and happy. The people that went to bat, the Mikes, the Sanjays, my wife, who have been asking for years, hey, can Josh do this? Hey, that's a good spot for, hey, what about this? So it's just, continually making them proud and, making myself proud and doing these shows and, understanding, the first show that I did without Mike there, I was just probably looked like I was a ghost. I was probably white. And Daryl came to me and was like, Daryl's another one of our guys who works behind the scenes. You guys know, and said, we got you, man. We got you. We got, and it was just like a nice calming sense of like, yeah, this is a team and everybody understands what we're doing. And, the last place that I worked, there were two of us in the truck. It was a ghost town, and now there's just this team of folks who I can depend on, and I want one day for them to be able to say, we can depend on him too.
Hell yeah! Oh my God,
I love that. I look forward to the moment. I don't know. I obviously, without saying too much, there's going to be a lot of kind of Josh running the ship coming up.
Yeah, and I'm real scared about that.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
But I think it's going to be in good hands. I think we'll all be in good hands. I think,
thank you.
I spend enough time even around Tony and how highly he speaks of you. And when people speak highly of you when you're not around, that's when you know that you're truly doing good work here. And I think you are doing excellent work here at AEW.
Excellent.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you, guys.
I'm so happy we finally had you on this podcast. It took way too long. I think it was last time we were in Cincinnati, I asked you, and it's 2026 now. So thanks. Nice of you.
I mean, in all honesty, it's great that we did it now, and probably the timing is perfect. So I just thank you guys so much, and this is awesome. And now we're gonna get on airplanes and see everybody at work.
Yes, we are.
Oh my God, I love it so much. Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate you being here. You can follow Josh on Instagram at Josh Mathews with 1 T. Reminder, just 1 T. And on X, Real Josh Mathews. AEW Unrestricted, as a reminder, is sponsored in part by Upper Deck. The AEW SP Signature Edition is here, featuring Mercedes Moné, Orange Cassidy, Kenny Omega, and more, packed with rare hits, stunning parallels, and collector heat. This set delivers the energy of the ring straight to your hands. It's available now at your local hobby shops. Don't miss the pull of the year. Also, please follow, rate, and review this podcast on all of your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Spotify, all the fun stuff. You can also check us out on YouTube, new episodes every Monday. And if you're not an AEW insider, you can get early access to ticket pre-sales, special merchandise offers, and more straight to your inbox. Sign up today, AEWTIX.com. Don't forget, you may not be able to see him, but I can hear him every time we're on Dynamite, AEW Dynamite on TBS, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. and streaming on HBO Max. AEW Collision live every Saturday on TNT. ROH streams every Thursday on Honor Club. I'm Aubrey Edwards, along with my co-host and BFF, Will Washington. Thank you so much for listening. Peace out, everybody.